Hi, I'm Alexandra Carrivo. I'm one of the evaluating occupational therapists in the Central Texas cold pediatric therapy location, Austin specifically, along with one of my colleagues, Lynn Ong. She is one of our certified occupational therapy assistants, also in our Austin location. We're going to be presenting about how the sensory system can affect behaviors in childhood. So, occupational therapy is often a misunderstood profession, but overall, we really want people to be as independent as possible. So, for our kiddos, that's at an age appropriate level. Oftentimes in childhood, behaviors can affect how much a child is able to participate independently and how much assistance they might need from caregivers. So, in occupational therapy, we often look at how the child is responding to all of the things that are coming in from their environment. So, the sensory system. This helps us to kind of decipher, what they need as an individual in order to be as successful as possible and obviously independent. So, basically, I know a lot of people always hear about the sensory system and sensory integration and sensory diets and things like that in occupational therapy. So what we're going to do today is really break it down for you and kind of explore where we're coming from, really. Before we kind of make those bigger sensory integration, sensory diet kind of choices. And this should really help to kind of understand maybe where your kids are coming from, or even kind of help them and kind of be able to, add some activities into their lives so that they are able to focus a little bit better and be a little bit more independent.
So this is just a brief infographic that might look a little overwhelming right now, but we are going to break it down over the next few slides. And this really is a good kind of tool and source to go back to. Possibly just screenshot it right now, and you'll be able to refer back and, really consider why a child might be behaving the way they are and how the environment is, kind of affecting their behavior, and also give you ideas of how we can alter the environment to improve their behavior as well. So we have 5 senses that basically everyone knows about, which is seeing, touching, tasting, smelling, and hearing. But we also do have 3 other ones that are a little bit less common, less heard about, and really often affect a child's behavior. When a child's brain is not mature enough yet, they can either over-respond or under-respond to some of these systems, and it can cause them to behave in certain ways. So first thing we're going to do is just look at those, 3 other senses that are not as commonly known about. And we're going to just kind of explore, examples of them as well as kind of what they do. So the first one we have is the interoceptive system. Essentially, this is knowing your internal body systems, what they're telling you, as well as how you have to kind of alter what's happening in your environment in order to make them feel regulated, feel at homeostasis, which is essentially balanced. So interoceptin essentially is telling you things like, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I need to go to the bathroom. The next sense is proprioception. This is knowing where your body parts are in space, I guess we'll say. This has a lot to do with kind of how gravity is interacting with your body parts. For example, if I'm holding my arms up straight up in the sky, I don't need to look and see and use my vision to know that my arms are being held up. I can feel that feeling. So the proprioceptive system is really telling me, where I am and what's going on, and where I am, especially related to gravity. This system goes all the way back to when we were in the womb. We were, nice and snug up in the womb, and all of our joints and body parts were, for the most part, very flexed and, gathered very closely together into ourselves. And this often is basically the reason why we're so comforted by things like deep pressure. A weighted blanket, for example, is a big OT tool that's now being used more by the general population. So proprioception is really that feeling of, that nice deep pressure that really calms a lot of people down. And the final system is the vestibular system. The vestibular system is really all about your balance. It's about your inner ear. So, for example, when you're sick and you tilt your head, you can feel that fluid in your head. It all has to do with that system. So these are kids that are, a little bit more under-responsive to the system are the ones that are always spinning around and they never seem to get dizzy. It's kids that really crave a lot of movement and moving their heads in different planes and just kind of being all over the place. Really crave being upside down, for example, on the couch. Kids that just love movement. So that's kind of what that vestibular system's all about. So the next one, bear with me, it might look a little bit confusing because the over and under responsive arrows seem to be like they're on the wrong side, but let's just talk through it for a minute. When you are under responsive, so if you're a child that is under responsive to, let's say, for example, under responsive to sound, that means that a typical response that, typical kids or adults might hear, they don't really hear it as well. So if they're under responsive to it, that means we need to be louder for them to, to get their attention with sound. On the other side, there's really over responsive kids. So these are the kids that might be really upset by messy play or us touching their hands, providing them with hand over hand assistance if they're sensitive tactilely. But basically, this is a really great way for occupational therapists to kind of work with each individual and to kind of decide what that person needs in order to feel regulated, in order to feel balanced, so that they are able to attend to tasks for longer periods, focus, able to kind of, do the things that we're expecting them to do for whatever age they are, whether it may be, sitting at the table and completing a task, dressing themselves, writing a paragraph. Basically, what we do is we look at the sensory system and the child as a unique individual, and we just kind of figure out ways that this person is going to basically best succeed by providing them with various ways for them to get this sense of balance in their sensory system. So it's important to remember that this doesn't necessarily mean that, a child's structures like their inner ear or their eye structures are affected at all. When a ophthalmologist might go in and look at their structures of their eye, or an audiologist or any, other specialist, they might, say all the structures look fine. But instead, what we're really considering here is how that child's brain is processing the information. So it might be that their ears hear just fine, but, what are they responding to? And that's really what we're considering here. So in the next few slides, we're going to have Miss Lynn, our occupational therapy assistant in the Austin Clinic, go over a couple more examples of interventions and, things that we do for some of these kiddos that are either over-responsive or under-responsive to some of these systems.
Hi, my name is Lynn Ong, and I'm a CODA at the Austin location. I'll be going over some interventions we use in the clinic, as well as interventions parents and caregivers can provide to their child on the go. The first type of intervention I will be going over is catered to a child who is under-responsive. This may be helpful if your child displays a sluggish body, slouches in his or her chair, seems sleepy, have low energy, or underreactive to touch, to name a few. You first want to start off with providing vestibular input, followed by proprioceptive input, and exactly in that order. So what are some examples of vestibular input? Some vestibular activities include spinning, rolling, swinging, and rocking. This can be done using equipment like swings, scooter boards, or simply moving your body by spinning around in a circle or nodding your head in a back and forth motion. Now, what about proprioceptive input? Some proprioceptive activities include pushing and pulling heavy objects, jump rope, animal walks, and crawling. So if your child seems to have low energy or is sluggish, you can provide them with a quick pick-me-up to help them regulate their bodies by first providing vestibular input like jumping on a trampoline or doing quick jumping jacks followed by pushing or pulling heavy objects. In the clinic, this may look like a child jumping on a trampoline in the therapy gym 20 times, followed by pushing and pulling weighted balls or weighted sensory bottles in a bucket for a couple of minutes. Providing vestibular input first, like jumping, will in a sense wake up the child's body, followed by proprioceptive input, like pushing heavy objects, will provide a balance in their bodies and calm them down, in a sense bringing them back to homeostasis. So what you may be asking is, what can I do as a parent or caregiver to provide this type of intervention for my child if I don't have all the same therapy equipment at home? What if you're at the grocery store with your child? One intervention you could try is to have the child do 10 to 20 jumping jacks for some vestibular input, followed by letting him or her help you push your heavy shopping cart around the grocery store. There are 2 columns listed with activities you can choose from. So if you look, you can choose any one activity from each column and administer in the order of first vestibular, then proprioceptive. These next interventions are catered for an over-responsive child. This may benefit your child if he or she has high energy, touches most objects or people in their environment, is fidgety, always on the run, or always crashing into things or people in his or her environment. You can choose any one activity from each column and provide input in the order of first tactile, then proprioceptive. Some tactile input includes tickles, vibration, big pressure hugs, letting a child wrap up or roll in a sheet, or even tactile play with shaving cream or sand as tolerated. An intervention for a child with high energy may look like a therapist providing vibration to the child's body via vibration brush, followed by joint compressions and or animal walks like bear crawls. A quick intervention for parents or caregivers to try at home may include tickling or giving their child a hug, followed by providing joint compressions or having the child do bear crawls from the living room to the kitchen. All children are different, and all children receive and interpret and process their environment through their senses differently. Try out these interventions through trial and error, and what may work for one child may not work for another. Once you find the right combo of appropriate input, your child will be well regulated to participate in his or her daily life to the fullest.